Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning.
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on? How y'all doing tonight or today or whenever you're watching this podcast? Welcome to What's funny?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Anyways, welcome to Love by You podcast, episode 19. I'm your host, Carrie L, and
Me, R.A. Roberts.
yes. And our topic tonight is flattered or pissed off.
Yes.
Flattered or pissed off? That's quite a topic, babe.
Well, hey.
So what you talking about with this whole flattered or pissed off?
So, with flattered or pissed off, I guess my question is, as a married person, can you be flattered when somebody sees your ring and still flirts with you? Or should you be pissed off that they saw your ring and they still flirted with you?
Well, I mean, I would say, like, if you are married, honestly, I think it's like, that's not okay. Like, it should be like an absolutely not. Like, you see my ring, and I know that sometimes people use the joke of, like, I need a magnifying glass to see your ring, but I'm pretty sure most men notice when there's something on that ring finger. Yeah. And I think that when they choose to flirt with you or come on to you anyway, like, I honestly think that that's very disrespectful. So
most people love to receive compliments, you know,
I agree.
and I've even heard people say, oh, well, it's nice to know that I still got it.
Right. They think that some way that them getting compliments from someone else, a perfect stranger, means that they, still got it going on, still attractive, still desirable. And I'm like, if you are getting that from your spouse, then you really don't need to get that from anyone else.
True.
So I think that just kind of feeds into, are you getting that from your spouse?
Well, there was an article, there was an updated article from May 2023 in Choosing Counseling that stated, while flirting isn't technically a bad thing, when you're married, it could be considered inappropriate if it breaches relationship boundaries and or is viewed as hurtful by your partner. By recognizing inappropriate flirting, you can determine if it's affecting your relationship.
Right. But I think, too, when you talk about recognizing inappropriate flirting, most people, I think, have an issue, like, when it starts off as flirting and they continue to allow it, they don't recognize that it's inappropriate until it's too late.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, I feel that, we've laughed about this all the time of how, like, I'm kind of oblivious when someone is actually, trying to flirt with me or come on to me or whatever. But it's
oblivious would be if you even acknowledged it. You would have to work up to oblivious.
I'm just saying, like, I'm naturally a nice person. And so it's like when someone will flirt with me or they are trying to, come on to me, they literally have to blatantly be like, so, what's your number or whatever, for me to be like recognizing that they're actually trying to flirt with me. And I think, too, because I hate to say it, but a lot of times their flirting is piss poor. So therefore, it's like probably why I don't even recognize it,
So then is the flirting okay if it's you never realize?
I think that at some point you should realize, like how I said, even with me, you know, being naturally nice and just being completely oblivious to it. Mm-hmm. I do realize at some point when they're like, oh, can I have your number? Like, they have to literally be black and white, like, say it out for me to recognize that, oh, you're actually trying to holler at me. And when that happens, what happens, babe? Huh?
Well, I laugh.
You laugh, but I shut
mad.
it. I get mad and I shut it down because it's one of those things. Like even the way I respond to them, they should know, or they should actually realize this woman has no interest in me. Like, but they don't, and so I just feel like it is blatantly being disrespectful when you see this ring on my finger. My ring is not small. And so therefore it's not like it's hard for you to see. You can see it, you know, with no glasses on and you blind. Like you're still gonna be able to see it. So that's one of the things. Like I'm like, even Ray Charles, who was blind, he felt their hands and knew when he wanted to talk to them or not. Like he knew when they were available or when they weren't. So that's one of the things, is that once I do recognize it, I shut it down completely.
But I think there's even times for men, and I've done this when I've gone into the gym and I've not worn my silicone ring, so I've worn my metal ring, so I've taken my metal ring off. Mm-hmm. And you know, as we've talked about in the previous podcast, like for men, when men don't wear their ring, they're not seen as attractive as when they wear their ring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think, so then, you know, we'll reverse it around. So you say, you know, for men, they should be able to see your ring, and so they shouldn't flirt. But same thing for women. Women should see the ring and not flirt, but yet it still happens.
Right, and they're being disrespectful. I think both ways. Like, if you see a ring on someone's finger, and then you should know that that's completely off limits. Like, it's not a time for you to try to approach it. It's not a time for you to even like go there. Like, I just feel like that is just so disrespectful to be like, oh, well, I'm still gonna flirt with that person. I'm not trying to go any further, you know, than flirting, but that's all we're doing.
Well, but obviously there must be some couples out there, some married couples out there that feel like flirting isn't a bad thing, because it says, you know, the article even said when flirting isn't technically a bad thing, it could be considered inappropriate. So
I don't think flirting's a bad thing when it's with your spouse. But if you marry, ain't no flirting need to be going on with nobody else.
And I agree. And we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
You know, you all in your feelings, so you.
I'm just saying, like, I'll cut somebody in a minute. Like, try me.
But I think there are different levels, and the article even talked about it, that there's different levels. Like it said, one is when a couple is in an open relationship, which is, it defined it as a broad term describing an agreement between established partner, which allows for additional romantic or sexual connections. Then they have,
which I feel like is a mess altogether. Like, that's straight up confusion. Why are you gonna have an open relationship? Like, that's just my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion. You know, so it's like anybody can come for me for that, but I will stand by it. Like, open relationships, what is the point of having a relationship?
Well, for me,
with someone.
And again, we're getting ahead. You're jumping to the end, but because you in your feelings.
Well, you need to get through this, because I'm ready to, you know, get through it and get it done.
I know you are.
Okay.
But I say for me, I'm too territorial, and not in the fact that you are my property, not in that aspect. So don't come for me for that. But like in the fact that you are my wife. People out there, they're in open relationships, they're swingers, and all of that. Like, yeah, nah, I'm not gonna be cool with some other dude flirting, touching my wife, kiss. Like, yeah, no, that ain't gonna happen.
Well, and I think too, the word that comes to mind is exclusivity. Like, I believe that when you are in a relationship with someone, especially your spouse, like, it should be special. There should be certain things that you share with your spouse that you don't share with anybody else.
Yes.
Like anybody else. Like, and that's the thing too. Even things that you share physically with your spouse, you don't even share that with God. So like, I feel like there are certain things that it really should be exclusive to your partner. And when you allow other people to be in that relationship, i.e. this open relationship, it leads it to not only be open to those other people, but open to other spiritual things going on, other baggage, other heartache, other pain. Like it leaves you open to so much more than just a good time with someone else. And I think that's where I have an issue with that.
Yeah. And so it's at the step from that is an emotional affair. And it says an emotional affair is when someone develops close and emotionally intimate relationship with someone other than their partner. While the relationship is a non-sexual connection, it closely resembles the bond found in marriage or devoted relationships. Emotional affairs are often considered a betrayal due to the level of intimacy experienced with someone who is not the main partner. And I think a lot of time, from the male perspective, this is the affair that women are more likely to have. Women are more likely to have an emotional affair than a physical affair.
Right.
Because it's that intimate, non-sexual, emotional intimate
Intimacy.
connection. Yeah. And I think I think most men will agree that an emotional affair is a full out affair, is a full out thing. It's an emotional affair is just more than flirting. We all the time we talk about, there are no work wives, no work husbands.
Yeah. And that was kind of what it reminded me of. Well, with a lot of times people will say, oh, that's my work wife or that's my work husband. And there is, I think, an emotional bond that happens with that person. And it can get to the point where it's like you're sharing stuff with that person that you're not sharing with your husband or you're not sharing with your wife. And so I think that it's really the emotional affair. I think with a lot of women, we have emotional affairs before we have physical affairs. However, the physical affair is soon to follow once the emotional affair happens.
Yeah. Well, because I think whereas men are more physical, women are more emotional. Kind of goes back to like with the love languages and all of that. Whereas if you're someone that, words of affirmation and quality time are your love languages, and you have somebody that for someone other than your spouse that is fulfilling that need, then that's the cheating, because you are allowing somebody else to fill the role that your spouse should be filling. And I think that's the major thing with flirting, with affairs, with open relationships, all of that. is you are allowing somebody else to take a role, to take a part that only your spouse should play.
Right. Right.
You know.
Right. And I also had a thought, and it kind of takes us back to, I wanted to make sure that I made a point that complimenting someone is not the same as flirting with someone.
I'll agree. Yeah.
And because I thought about the fact that I have had several men compliment me, but it's not in the intent of pursuing me, I guess you would say, or it wasn't for the intent of, having a sexual or even a emotional connection, I guess you would say. They were just complimenting me on either my outfit, or they were complimenting on me on my face or whatever. And it's fine, I think, when it just is a compliment. I think flirting is that continual compliment or complimenting in order for you to with the intent of going further.
Yeah, and I think that key word in there is the intent. I think with flirting, it is you are intentionally doing it to elicit a response.
Right.
So, and I'll say the same thing, because I know that there have been a lot of women that assume I'm flirting with them, or I'm attempting to flirt with them, like when I hold the door for them,
that's
or
what I was
when we're
thinking
on public transportation and I stand up and give them my seat, or it's like, whatever. Because I know I've had experiences where it's like I hold the door for someone, and they're like, oh, and they give this look. As y'all know, I'm an introvert. But when I'm out in public, that I speak to people, I'm cordial, I'm nice to people. And so there's just been times when I've told somebody, hey, good morning. And I get a,
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not.
And I'm like, chill, child. Like, he don't want you.
Right.
Like, get over yourself. Because you do open the door for women, and just to be chivalrous. It's not a matter of I'm trying to get with you or whatever. It's just the fact that I'm just being nice,
right.
Right.
And so I think that like you said, that your intent, what is your purpose behind doing it? Are you trying to elicit an emotional response for somebody? Or if it's like, oh, hey, I like your hair, or hey, that dress looks really nice on you, which men do, and they're not trying to sexualize, they're not trying to do anything.
They're not trying to be a pervert. They're not trying to, and it's like, it's a simple thank you, and keep it moving.
Right.
But yes, I just wanted to kind of point that out, was that complimenting someone and flirting with someone is two different things. But continue with, you were going to go on to micro cheating.
Yeah. So, since you said it. So, so micro cheating, it says, it defines as, refers to acts of seemingly trivial, inappropriate behaviors that occur outside of one's devoted relationship. Often done unintentionally, many people may consider these behaviors infidelity, since there's no sex involved, but micro-cheating can breach a couple's spoken or unspoken norms, trust, and boundaries in other ways. Although micro-cheating doesn't always result in a full-blown affair, it can lead to relational problems down the road. So I think, with this throws out our intent
Right.
thing. But I still think with micro-cheating, I still believe with micro-cheating that it deals with your intent, because it's trivial, inappropriate behaviors. But I don't think there's any unintentional, inappropriate behaviors.
Right. And I think too, when it talks about like being like it's unintentional, I think it's more so like you go to coffee with someone and you think, oh, well, it's just coffee. It's not anything, big or anything. We're not going on a date or anything like that. It's just coffee. But I think too, and I think this is where a discerning spirit comes into mind, because I think that we know a 2-year-old knows when they're doing wrong. And so I think we have that little catch in our conscious that's like, this ain't really,
Well,
but I think when you start to justify it, that's when, or you try to explain it away, that's when you have to start asking yourself, is this really right?
so one behavior that came to mind is my unofficial dating that I did, but also just talking to other guys and observing women's behavior. A lot of times for a guy can tell if a woman likes him if she finds a reason to touch him.
Really?
Yes. So pushing of the arm, or, oh, hey, you have something on your shirt, let me get that, or, and honestly, that's something that I've noticed, that those times of touching, I think that's that inappropriate behavior, because I know I have a lot of female friends that they'll be like, oh, hey, you have something on your shirt. They won't try to pick it off, but they'll be like, oh, you have something on your shirt. But somebody else, if that's related to me, a woman that's related to me, that if they see something on my jacket, they'll just go ahead and they'll just pick it off.
Take it off, yeah. I see.
And so I can see that, using your coffee analogy, if you're going to have coffee, because I've had lunch with friends of the opposite sex, and it's just been lunch. It's been friends going out to lunch. But I can see that, if any of those lunches, if they would have found a reason to touch me, that would have been our last lunch.
Right. Yeah.
Because that is, people may disagree with me from that, but from my observations, that's what I've noticed, that if a woman goes out of her way to touch you or to return a touch from you, if you go to touch someone, they don't really shy away. And I won't say shy away, but it's that returning of the touch. Then that can be one of those inappropriate behaviors. But also, that's not an unintentional thing. It may be a subconscious thing. I think that's where I disagree with this, where it's not that it's done unintentionally, but micro cheating is done subconsciously.
Right.
They don't realize that that's what they're doing. So they intentionally did it, but subconsciously they're doing it subconsciously. So
yeah, they're not sure. I think it's the intent is subconscious.
Right.
They're they might say with their mouth, oh, it's just a simple coffee, it's nothing, no big deal or whatever. But subconsciously, they are bonding with that person, and they do have an intent to go further or to be more than just friends.
Right. And it's because, and I think at that point, it's because there's already, when they're doing it with a motive, there's already that connection there, that emotional connection there or something. And I think for some people it's like, oh, well, yeah, hey, I still like to know I got it. But I think that's when the line has been crossed, I would say. But also they gave 8 examples of inappropriate flirting while married. And I'm not saying that there's only 8. I'm not saying this is an exhaustive list, because I'm pretty sure, we can think of 2 more to round it up to 10. And my wife, who's in her feelings during this podcast, could probably
I don't know what
come
you're
up
talking
with 15
about. I'm
more.
just saying, like, I just don't want people to try me. And I feel like, when people see that I am married and they still try to flirt, it's very disrespectful, not only to me but for them, or to you. And I think that's because I'm like offended that you take my niceness
Yes.
and decide to flirt. So either way, I'm gonna let you go on with these little 8 things. Go ahead with your little 8 examples.
With my little
Your little 8 examples.
Little
Go
8
ahead.
examples. Okay. So 8 examples that they listed. Again, not mine, not an exhaustive list, but coming on to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm trying to remember the example they gave in the article. But like, how would you define that somebody is coming on to?
Probably like making a comment about your physique and then like giving you a look like, yep, like, where you want to go, or I'm available, like, trying to set up a time or
so
whatever.
that blatant expression,
Yeah.
that they're interested sexually or romantically. So that's a coming on. Okay. The second one it has is that they consume most of your energy. So like your interaction with them consumes most of your energy, most of your time, what you're thinking about. You're always trying to do something for them. Or like, because we all have those life events. Like with our oldest child recently graduating from college, like the months leading up to that was the focus of our life.
Right.
But I think in this, when it consumes most of your energy, it's when you're frequently creating opportunities to have those flirting like interactions.
Right.
So you don't have a reason. Let's say you work in an office, so you don't have a reason to go by their department, but you find reasons. Oh, let me go drop that off. Oh, I could email, but let me go talk to them face to face because they may not understand.
Yeah.
Or like I know, like with teachers. Oh well, I need to go by the library.
Right.
I need to go. Oh, I need to go by the office, or
And I think too with this one, it not only consumes most of your energy, but consumes most of your time and your thoughts. Like, it makes me think of the movie Why Did I Get Married? And Tyler Perry's wife in this movie, she basically was having an emotional affair with someone that was at work. And it got to the point where she was she kept thinking about what she was going to wear. She put so much time and energy into what outfit she was going to wear to work. And when he sees her in that, like, and when he called her out on it, she was defensive. She didn't know, like, she was like, no, I'm not even thinking about that. And he's like, you are wearing different outfits, you are, all that. So, yeah.
So the next one they have is flirting to make your partner jealous. And I think this is one they have to be mindful of, is because you're not flirting because you're interested in the person, but you're flirting to get back at your spouse. But the problem with that is you're using somebody else to get your spouse's attention. And so you're actually being disrespectful to two people, to your spouse, and you're just using and manipulating the person that you're using. Again, something I disagree is that it says that, moderate flirting can be healthy, but jealously provoking tactics to maintain your spouse's interests are inappropriate. I still don't feel that moderate flirting can be healthy. I don't. But anywho,
with someone else, yeah.
But it can cause problems because that other person may think, oh, well, no, we're actually involved. We're actually in a relationship. And you're like, no, I'm just using you, you know. So the next one they have is hiding things from your spouse. And so this kind of goes to, again, with, you know, you always have to go outside to take a phone call. Or you're deleting emails, or I don't know. What I'm trying to think of some things I've seen from TV.
Probably being secretive with your texts.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. Using code words and all of that.
Yeah. Number 5 is something that you brought up is being defensive when confronted.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think this should be a red flag in anything you do, inside or outside of your marriage. If anytime somebody questions you about why you're doing something, you become defensive, I think you need to stop and
do a self-reflection.
Right,
because that means that there's something going on.
Right.
Like, and it might not have gotten to the point of a, you know, full out affair or anything like that. But it is something when you are questioned about something, if you're not doing anything wrong, then there's no need to be defensive.
Right.
You know.
Right. Goes back to Biz Markie. They say he's just a friend. Number 6, and actually I thought of this before. I forgot it was even in the article. But deliberately touching someone. You know, saying that not all physical contact translate into sexual or sensual flirting, but there's a line. So like hugging a friend, high-fiving someone, patting someone on the back is fine, but it's when that hug goes a little too long, or you squeeze in a little too tight, or, you know, the lingering hug.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's one of the reasons why I intentionally try to side hug the opposite sex. You know, because it's like you don't want anything to go over that line, you know. So
yeah. So number 7 is flirting with someone when there is an attraction. So, you know, it's saying that, you know, being married, that you can still notice that someone is attractive, but then you take your time to have an interaction with them. You know, I think it kind of goes back to kind of one thing we've said with relationships is that you can't choose who you fall in love with, but you can choose who you marry. You know, it's
or who you stay in love with.
Or who you stay in love with, yeah. And then number 8 is not disclosing your marital status online or in public. You know, not being Facebook official. I guess.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I would have to call it like, yeah.
Yeah, that would be a problem. Because it's one of those things, if you're posting and doing everything else in public, why not let people know that you are married? You know, that's kind of like that whole, like, not wearing your ring in public, you know, or wearing your ring only at certain times. Like, why though?
And now, and I agree with that. But I would have to, I do have to go back and say something that there is a time when flirting as a married person is acceptable, which I think as a married, and I think there is some there. Yeah, I will say that there is some flirting that, yes, a married person needs to do.
Okay, do tell.
Why you looking at me like that?
I'm just saying, like, I'm just, you know, waiting for the information.
But I think when that is when that flirting is with your spouse.
Yeah.
So, and I think you should be flirting with your spouse and keeping things fresh and alive with your spouse. Like, you know, the thing that I always says is like, continue to date your spouse, especially when, like, as we said, you know, we feel that every 7 to 10 years the person changes slightly. That, yeah, you need to take that time to get to know them and stay in touch with them. So flirting with your spouse is good. Like, I know we were walking around today at at a festival, and we were holding hands and sitting next to each other and joking.
And you were going out of your way to touch me. And I
Sure
was
enough
like,
was. Yep.
I was like, sir.
Unapologetically.
Sir. But either way.
Every day of the week, twice on Sunday. It is Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, you know, when it comes to your spouse, yeah, I think you should
flirt away.
You know,
flirt
yeah,
away.
you know, still come to your spouse, whisper, laugh, joke with your spouse, walk by your spouse, you know, brush your hand against their arm or, you know, against their neck, as I love to do to you.
Or against other parts.
I mean, hey.
But the thing about it too, I will say that it is so important that you flirt and date and play and have fun with your spouse, because like I was saying before, when other people try to flirt or try to give you a compliment, they can't give you anything that your spouse hasn't already been giving you.
Yeah.
You know,
Somebody coming up and telling you, "Oh, I like the way you look in that dress," shouldn't be an unusual thing, because that's something that your husband should always be telling you.
Yeah, you hear it
Right.
all the time. Yeah.
You know, "Oh, babe, I can tell you've been hitting the gym." Should be something that your spouse says. Mm-hmm. You know, getting little affectionate touches should be something that your spouse does, so that way they don't have to get it from somebody else, you know, and that it doesn't give an opportunity for somebody else to come in and to do those things that you should be doing. For you, the running joke is always like, nobody else, not even your mama, should make my plate. Mm-hmm. You know, nobody else should make your spouse's plate, because nobody else should know. And nobody else should know exactly what your spouse loves to eat and what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. Like, because I even know for us, like, our taste buds have changed since we've grown up, you know, and as we've grown together. So,
Yeah, but either way, definitely keep flirting, keep dating, keep joking and having fun with your spouse. And therefore, there is what you give your spouse can't be given to you by anybody else. And I think that's where it's makes it special. So,
yeah.
Well, honey, I am so thankful to be loved by you.
And I'm thankful to be loved by you.
And we're thankful to be loved by him. All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Until
Peace
next
out.
time.
Fade to you now. I wanna wake up with